Hey, Will, would you rather have a Steam Deck or a Legion Go S?
Well, Adam, you've been testing both of them for the last several weeks, so why don't you tell me which I'd rather have?
Let's talk about it. It's a debate. I actually think that there are reasons to buy both. So let's talk about it. So since its release, the Steam Deck has been the de facto recommendation for people like us who want people to get into the glorious world of handheld PC gaming.
Yeah, handheld PCs for games have been around for a really long time, but the Steam Deck exploded the category and made it something that people take really seriously versus like a kind of weird niche thing for people who like to buy stuff on the internet, maybe from questionable sellers.
Yeah, and while there's been other handhelds out there that have beaten it on power, on specs,
really every category.
In every category it's been beaten, but still, the basic recommendation is just get a Steam Deck because it's that good.
It's the 800-pound gorilla. It's people know what they're getting into. It's popular enough now that developers are targeting it for minimum min spec perf at 1280 by 800. So you're gonna have a pretty good experience in games that have that little green check mark that say they're Steam Deck verified.
Yeah, and in all this time that I've been testing handhelds, and believe me, I've been testing a lot of handhelds, the first handheld that I think is actually neck and neck with buying a Steam Deck has come out, and that has been the Lenovo Legion Go S Z2 Go version. Now stop, I know a lot of people are just immediately gonna get down in the chat and be like, wow, what an idiot.
Wow, what an idiot.
Wow, what an idiot. But let me clarify real quick. I have been seeing deals on the Z2 Go version of the Lenovo Legion Go, both the SteamOS version and the Windows version, sometimes more the Windows version, down to like $500.
That's what an OLED Steam Deck costs.
I mean,
Adam.
so the OLED Steam Deck, which this is what this is, starts at $550. So I feel like if you're looking between an OLED Steam Deck at $550 and a Legion Go S with a Z2 Go at $500, that is a good debate. And I think that's the first time something's been so close enough to the Steam Deck that I think you might want to consider one over the other. So let's go over some categories.
Okay, yeah, it's the first time comparably priced peers to the Steam Deck are providing better performance specs, whatever. So let's talk about how they stack up.
So first up is the screen.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the Steam Deck OLED has an OLED screen.
It's a nice big OLED screen. It's a really pretty screen.
It is a really pretty screen. There are only a select few other handhelds with OLED screens out there, and this still beats the pants off of it. OLED is amazing, especially in dark environments. You get those true blacks. It's really nice. But the Legion Go S has a larger 8-inch screen. Not only that, it's higher refresh rate at 120 hertz. Not only that, it is VRR of a range from 48 to 120. Ooh. It is not OLED, but this is a really good IPS panel.
Yeah, I looked at it and I couldn't immediately tell that it was not an OLED screen. The blacks were so good on the IPS panel. So
yeah, I mean it's still, if you look at it side by side, the blacks are not going to be as deep and rich on here, but the colors nice and vibrant. I feel like it gets bright enough. I don't play my handhelds outside anyway, so whatever, in home and normal viewing environments,
in
the
your
brightness
dark
is just
room,
fine. Yeah,
all by yourself in the basement.
Yeah. But the VRR is really nice to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is one of those things that I think punches above its weight. So which would you rather have? Would you rather have the Steam Deck OLED screen or the Legion Go S screen?
Well, I really like VRR, and I really like OLED. So this is a tough choice for me. I think the deciding factor is that it's big, which kind of a pro and a con, because like the big screen means that the whole thing is bigger. It's less likely to jam. Like the Steam Deck in its little case that it comes with, you just jam it in your bag and it's there when you travel or whatever. I'm really torn on this. I don't know which way I would go yet.
Yeah, I will say the Legion Go S does have a higher resolution screen. They're both 16 by 10, so a little taller aspect ratio. But this has 1920 by 1200, where this has 1280 by 800. To tell you the truth, I think that's a downside to have the higher res screen. 800p for me is more than enough. Yes, you get a little bit more clarity on the larger screen, especially since it is larger, you get a little more pixel density. But I mean, for the most part, you're not playing. Depends on the kind of games you're playing, but you're probably not playing it at native screen resolution anyway. So I think it would have been fine to go down to 800p on that, but they didn't ship it that way.
So one of the things about 800p and why it's interesting is if you are building your game to show your glyphs and stuff and your text at the appropriate resolution for a 1080p TV at 12 or 13 feet or whatever the Microsoft standards for the Xbox show, they're going to be the same size to work for the Steam Deck. So you only have to do that work once.
Oh, nice.
Right. So, the high resolution screen, like you said, kind of good. I need better glasses to see the definition on a 1080p screen that's that size.
So for my money, I actually like the screen on the Legion Go S better.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the screen. Next, let's talk about the guts.
The stuff inside that makes it go.
The internals and the performance. So obviously the Steam Deck is a much older Zen 2 based CPU with 4 cores, 8 threads, and 8 RDNA 2 compute units
That's
on
correct.
the GPU side. So, I mean, it's a little long in the tooth. It's not the greatest at playing the, whatever new game is with ray tracing and all that kind of stuff.
It's not going to do that at all, actually.
I mean, but also I would say from the very beginning that this device wasn't made to be playing the latest and greatest AAA games anyway.
It seems like their target was, we want something that's going to play current gen at the time console games at the resolution that the handheld ships with, which is 1280 by 800. And they've done pretty well with that, with the exception of stuff that demands ray tracing.
Yeah, and the Z2 Go in the Legion Go S steps up. It still has 4 cores, 8 threads on the CPU side, but it switches to Zen 3 base CPU cores, and the GPU side is still RDNA 2, but it goes from 8 to 12 CU. So a little bit more power all around, a little bit better, efficiency, but nothing earth-shattering.
Yeah, the Zen 3 cores will do a little more work per cycle than the Zen 2 cores in the Steam Deck, and having 4 more compute units on the GPU side is definitely nice, even if they're the same class of thing. I kind of wish that they had upped the GPU cores rather than the CPU cores here, though.
Yeah, I think it's fine for the most part. I'd rather have more CUs than...
No doubt.
For sure. The VRAM or the RAM configurations are a little bit different. This does have an older LPDDR5, 16 gigs. Depending on the Legion Go S version that you can either get 16 gigs of LPDDR5X, or if you get the Windows one and load SteamOS on it if you want, you can get actually 32 gigs of that same RAM in there. So, depending on which one you buy at what price, you can get a little bit more RAM, maybe a little bit faster, but it's also, not a ton different. The battery capacity is different. I mean, there's a lot about the internals that are different for sure, but I think what it boils down to is performance. So I did some quick testing. We're going to go through some charts. We're not going to go too deep into them. But across the board, if you look at the jump from the Steam Deck OLED to the Z2 Go in the Legion Go S, we're seeing a nice bump in performance across the board.
30 to 45% bump so far in some of these games.
Yeah, so I mean, is it lighting the world on fire? Is it a huge jump?
30% bump is substantial.
Yeah, I mean, it's it doesn't catch up to the Z1 Extreme. The Z1 Extreme is literally turning in like twice the performance
That's true.
of the Steam Deck OLED, but the Z1 Extreme is more expensive. So
a lot more expensive.
Yeah, we're talking here about being able to get something at that price point.
Yeah.
And so I would say, yes, on paper the difference kind of looks minimal, but in the actual testing that I've seen, you can actually get some good performance out of it, and not a generational upgrade, but at least a little bit more performance, which is nice.
A 30% bump is, like I said, it's nothing to sneeze at. That's a pretty good lift at the same price.
So it is what it is. Yes, it's nice to have a little bit more juice, but
yeah.
The next thing to talk about is ergonomics.
Hand feel.
Yeah, I think that this one is divisive, and it's hard to describe if you don't actually get your hands on it.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'd say the first major difference in terms of ergonomics is the size. The Legion Go S is a much larger device than the Steam Deck, so there's a lot more to hold on to here. Luckily, I feel like Lenovo has really kicked it out of the park or knocked it out of the park, whatever the analogy.
You hit it with a baseball bat. You whacked it out of the park.
Yeah, you're going to throw it out of the park for some reason. You're going to be a jerk about it. I love the ergonomics on the Legion Go S.
Yeah, for me, the bigger size is actually a benefit here because it gives you more, the grips are more pronounced, which means it's more comfortable in the hand. The thing I don't like about, there's two things I don't like about the ergonomics. One is that you're missing one of the back buttons on the Legion Go.
That is a bummer.
The Steam Deck ships with 2 on each side. You only have 1 on this. Probably 1's enough in reality. I mostly use both on each side bound to the same key.
Yeah.
They do add a nice thing here with these triggers. This is a thing they carried over from the first Legion Go, if I recall, where you can kind of move the triggers from full throw to short throw for games that don't use analog triggers, and you just use it as extra buttons. The thing I don't like about the Legion Go is with this size, I feel like the offset sticks are really uncomfortable because you end up in a situation. I'm usually an offset stick person. I'm an Xbox controller. I like the Xbox controller more than the 2 sticks on the bottom, PlayStation or whatever. But that's when I'm using a gamepad, which is relatively light, and I'm carrying the weight of the gamepad in my left hand, and my right hand is basically just moving up and down between the buttons and the sticks. With this, where you have this big weight carrying, and I have to shift, I'm carrying most of the weight of the handheld with my left hand, and my right hand is shifting back and forth between the face buttons and the low stick. I started to feel it. It wasn't super comfortable for me, and I ended up resting the handheld on my lap in a way that I don't with the Steam Deck, which has both sticks symmetrically on the top. I can't believe I'm saying this, when I was using desktop mode on Linux especially, I think the touchscreen support on Windows, the Windows version is pretty good. The touchscreen support on the Linux version is iffy, and missing those pads work as trackpads when you're in Linux on the Steam Deck, and I kind of miss them here. I felt like it wasn't quite.
Yeah, because this little
nub
track
is no
thing,
good.
Yeah, it doesn't work well.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I mean, so the counter I would have is that I think overall it just feels better in the hand for me.
It does.
Mostly because of this angle. See how it kind of curves down? The thing that I don't like about the Steam Deck is that it has really nice big grips, which are nice, but they don't curve. It's a straight line. So I end up feeling like I turn my palms in a little bit, rather than the Legion Go, where I feel like my palms are able to kind of like contour it a little bit better.
100% agree. I think if this had the same stick layout, and this stick layout on the Steam Deck's a little goofy, but you get used to it really quickly. I think if they had the non-offset sticks on the Legion Go, I'd be much happier with it.
I have always thought that I was an asymmetric stick person, like an Xbox layout, but only until recently it just dawned on me that I actually prefer symmetrical sticks, like a PlayStation or this. So yeah, I would definitely give it in here, except for because they had to include the big trackpads. They kind of offset the sticks a little bit higher than you would on a normal thing. So like for me, the stick placement isn't perfect either.
I will say, I tested both of these with my daughter, and she does not like the Steam Deck at all because her hands aren't big enough. She's 12. Her hands aren't big enough to reach the thumbsticks in the inside. Legion Go she was fine with. So she said it was too heavy though. So sorry, Lenovo.
It is heavier. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Maybe we'll flash it up on the screen, but it is heavier even on stats, and you can definitely
feel a weight difference. Yeah,
for sure. So I mean, I think for me, Legion Go S is the better ergonomic feel for me.
I was gonna say one last thing about ergonomics is noise, and one thing that the Steam Deck does really well is manage fan noise. So it's unusual that fan is blowing hard enough that I can hear it. It does have a little bit of a smell when it does get warm and starts going. The Valve says not to huff that, by the way, Adam. It's going to cause you brain damage.
They cannot stop me. This is a free country.
The Legion Go's fan, when you launch by default, is really, really loud.
Yeah, and you can't set those custom fan curves. It is a loud fan when it's pushed to the max. But also remember, we're talking about 2 different TDP ranges.
That's true.
The Z2 Go can go up to 40 watts, where this only caps out at like 18. 20.
All I care is that one sounded like a jet engine and one did not, and I'm going to go with not jet engine in this case.
True.
I also just turned the TDP on the Legion Go down, and it was fine. Yeah. So
last thing I'll note about ergonomics is the vibration motors. They're not bad, but they're not great.
They feel kind of
on the
cheap.
Legion Go S.
Yeah,
they're fine. I feel like the Steam Deck has better vibration motors, but either way, I actually tend to turn them off anyway.
Oh, no.
Yeah, for some reason, like I just feel like it rattles in my hands weird. So yeah, I turn off all the motors.
So the thing I noticed is they sound a little more rattly on the Legion Go. The Valve ones, you notice the bump, but you don't necessarily hear it. And on the Legion Go, I was definitely hearing the motors go.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so that was the hardware differences, at least the majority of the hardware differences that we wanted to cover. Now let's talk about the OS and the software experience, because I think there's even though you can now just get SteamOS on the Legion Go, whether you get the SteamOS one or loaded on the Windows one, whatever.
Or the old Legion Go will install SteamOS now too.
Exactly, yeah. This, I mean, is built from the ground up with SteamOS in mind, and it has gone through a ton of updates, and obviously where Valve is putting the most effort and work. So even though you would think, oh, they're both running SteamOS, there's actually some things in there that have some differences that you would want to keep in mind. And I mean, TLDR, I would say no matter what, this is the better OS experience.
I think that's probably right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Lenovo, like it's the difference between this one being out for 3 years almost now, and one being out for 3 or 4 weeks.
In months,
Yeah,
something like
a couple
yeah.
months. and you know, there's room to, but it's little stuff. It's like on the Steam Deck, you get a different level of, hey, is this game going to work on the Steam Deck hardware, right? They do some performance testing, and if you don't hit performance targets, then there's a little bubble that says, hey, this game underperformed.
A little green check mark.
Yeah. If you get the green check mark, you're probably good. Now, they've had some times where like people release updates and they had to pull the check mark back. People complain, yada, yada.
I don't think it's a magic bullet ever.
It is, nothing's a magic bullet, but you know you're going to be able to read the text. You know that you're able to do stuff with buttons. And you're not
performance
gonna,
is generally
you're not going to have
good.
to plug in a keyboard or mouse.
Yeah.
Right? And performance is generally okay. On the Legion Go, you're going to be able to see the button, you see the text, you're going to be able to read the buttons. You're not going to have to use a keyboard and mouse.
I don't even think it's that, is it?
Yeah, that's what it just doesn't give you anything about performance.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and it's definitely more this or that. You either get the check mark or you don't.
Yeah.
Where even on the Steam Deck verified, you get a yellow, which might indicate, there's a couple errors, but it should still play. So you get like 3 levels, where on the Legion Go S, you're only getting 2 levels. It's either yes or no. And
they still give you the descriptors on both. So like on the Steam Deck, you get, if you have a yellow, it means read the notes, and the notes tell you what's jacked up about it. And sometimes it's something simple like, hey, you have an RPG and you have to type a character name in one time at the beginning. That will trigger a yellow for developers, right? Yep. And a lot of them aren't going to do a bunch of work to change that, because it's literally one interaction at the very start of the game that you may not even do on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually think this is like a negative for both, because I feel like the Steam Deck verified thing falls flat enough times that I just don't trust it either way. And so I'm usually having, I mean, unless I'm literally seeing the big no symbol that says that just won't launch.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm having to go in there and be like, you know what? I'm going to try it out for myself.
So, see, I feel I've had pretty good luck with the Steam Deck verified thing, and I don't typically try to play AAA stuff on the handheld. I usually play more indie and kind of like lower fidelity games or 2D games or whatever. I actively missed it on the Legion Go.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's missing on the Legion Go that really bummed me out in the store on the Steam Deck, there's a whole like, hey, here are a bunch of games that are great on the deck for all the games with the green check mark.
Yeah, it's literally the landing page on the store is great on deck.
Yeah, and that's missing from the Legion Go, which is a bummer.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I just peruse the store enough that I'm gonna dig deeper anyway.
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah,
yes.
It is nice to have a quick little stop. Yeah,
having that landing page is convenient.
Yeah, I mean the other thing that I question, we talked about this in a previous video as well, is that the updates. There are things about the Legion Go S SteamOS version right now that just either don't work or have not been fully baked. Like by default, it doesn't have lighting controls for around the sticks, which is a bummer. You can actually, shell out to the and download some plugins to enable lighting,
but you have
which
to go
isn't
to desktop
hard.
mode.
But you have to go to desktop mode to do it.
Yeah.
And some people aren't comfortable with that. But I mean, by default, the hardware has this. It really sucks that the software doesn't have it. It should just have it integrated in there. Not only that, the power performance profiles, which are not available on the deck. It's either you're running it at max load, or you're custom tuning it down to hit a specific performance. Here you actually have 4 presets to pick from.
Oh.
And it's not capitalized. All the words are just in complete lowercase, which just feels a little sloppy. Not only that, you can't go in there and like there's a custom mode, which custom mode just means max everything, max fan speed, max TDP. You can't go in there and configure fan curves. You can't go in there and drop TDP in the exact same way that you can on the Windows version, which is a bummer. And that's one of those things that, I mean, is Lenovo's not going to do the work on that. That's got to be on Valve themselves, and are they going to take the time to configure those things from the bare minimum?
I would hope so. It seems like Valve's goal with the Steam Deck was to kickstart this whole infrastructure, this whole category, and then let folks like Lenovo and ASUS and MSI and all the other companies making these handhelds kind of pick up the reins and go. If they don't do that work for their partners, then their partners aren't going to do the work of shipping machines with their hardware on them, or with their software on them. So.
I guess, yeah. I mean, and the other thing, I mean, it's early days, so I don't have a ton of experience with it, but updates, the GPU drivers, like how often are Valve going to push that out? Even though technically the Z2 Go on Windows might have a newer driver, the SteamOS version might still be using an older driver.
So the way Linux does drivers is a little bit different than Windows. They're not usually standalone packages. Typically, if the GPU in the Steam Deck is going to get an update, the same update should serve the Z2 Go one. But I would like them to come out and explain how this all works.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was kind of bummed out by on the Legion 2 Go is that the Steam button, they do include a dedicated Steam button, and they do include the dedicated, I don't know even what it's called. It's the 3-dot button on the right side that pops up like the performance menu.
Overlay,
and it's overlay for controlling brightness and volume and Wi-Fi and stuff, and performance, actually. And they have both of those buttons. I think it's okay to have they're much smaller than on the Steam Deck. Mm-hmm. And I think it's okay to have the smaller overlay button. I think the Steam Deck ends up being used in combination with other keys to do a lot of shortcuts like screenshots
good point.
And popping up keyboards and stuff like that.
Good point, yep.
And because it's at the top and it's small, it's much harder to kind of hit those chords on the Legion Go than it is on the Steam Deck. On the Steam Deck, it's a big button toward the bottom, right where your thumb's going to rest. On the Legion Go, you have to stretch past the sticks in a way that is not easy to take a screenshot while you're playing a game, frankly.
Yeah, so I think to wrap up the OS part of it, for me, yes, the Steam Deck wins it pretty much hands down. It's obviously designed for this, and there's still a lot of question marks about SteamOS on the Legion Go S. Especially, 2 years later, is it still going to be supported? Who knows? A lot of questions out there. But still, it's close enough that the differences on the hardware side ultimately, for me, push it over the edge. If I was looking, me personally, at buying a Legion Go 2 with the Z2 Go at $500, which it's been on sale many times, or a Steam Deck OLED at $550 entry level, I would go with the Legion Go 2.
This is tough for me because usually I'm a bigger bar better person, right? I want the fastest performance and all that. For me, I'm probably going to go with the Steam Deck just because it seems a little easier.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, also I already have a Steam Deck and I have to go buy a Legion 2. Yeah. So it's a little more theoretical for me.
Well, but what about recommending to other people? Like I said, the Steam Deck has been the de facto, hey, you know what? Just go buy a Steam Deck.
I think
does this change anything for you?
I think the Steam Deck is really safe. I think that there's enough kind of small complaints with the Lenovo hardware that you have to balance that. You have to make that decision individually. This isn't an easy win for anybody, unfortunately.
Well, I guess to that point though, there's been years of articles about people configuring and doing things to the Steam Deck where the Legion Go just doesn't have at this point. So yeah, if you run into something, it probably needs a little more fiddling, or hey, worst case scenario in a couple years, it just, it doesn't get updated or something like that. I mean, at least you can put Windows on it. Windows is going to work on it. So
by virtue of the way Linux works, it's going to keep getting updated because when they do updates for SteamOS, it's going to I assume they didn't say how this works. It's going to push out to the Lenovo and the other people that use the OS. This makes me really excited about the future of SteamOS. And I'm really excited about what Lenovo does next. And I really want to look at this in 6 months and see what it looks like then and get back to it. But if I'm saying, hey, what should you spend your hard-earned money on? I'm going to go with the safe thing in this category.
Okay, well, what about you?
Yeah.
What would you go with? I mean, I think probably most of the people out there are, if I had to guess, most of the people out there would still pick the Steam Deck. But I'm curious to see if there's people who would, either they're diehard Lenovo fans, or they like the versatility of having Windows and Steam OS on the same device, or maybe they like the bigger screen. I mean, really, that is the selling point for me. And yeah, the bigger screen and the better ergonomic feel and a little bit more power. I do appreciate that. The last thing I will say is that I made a video last year saying that the Legion Go, the original one with the detachable controllers, was just not for me. It was not, when I looked at all the handhelds that I was using, like that was never the one that I would go to. It was just gathering dust on the shelf. But that has changed with the Legion Go. The Legion Go has been the one that I've been using the most. Yeah, and to be fair, specifically the Z1 Extreme version, because it has even more performance. But yeah, I have been picking this up more than the Steam Deck. And that good job on Lenovo.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that is a great turn, from going to something that, it just isn't for me to this is my daily driver.
Does this mean your commitment to that Smooth 40 lifestyle is gone?
No, Smooth 40 all the way.
Smooth
baby.
40 all the way.
Smooth
Okay.
40. Yeah. So let me know what you would pick, and if you want to see more handheld hardware testing like this, then get in the
comments, we call
well,
them.
the comment, but the hit
Like and
the bell,
subscribe.
like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff, and watch this next video over here. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Go check it out.